Hey there, ADB024 Aaron here. I'm in Klamath Falls on the old OC&E railroad that was abandoned in 1992. And as you can see, the state then paved over it and made it now the longest state park in Oregon. And it has to do with what happened in 1983. It was the rail banking law that was passed, and it allowed railroads would actually have to apply to the government to be able to abandon rail lines, and then if okayed, then they could apply to have it put into rail banking, to where the state then would actually pave it, make it a trail, and then later on the state could possibly even help pay for a railroad to get it going again, which it's just some odd stuff to me. I mean, railroads are heavily regulated and are a vital thing of this country, and always have been, and they've always been in the center of controversy when it comes to this country and many other countries. I mean, it goes all the way back to the Civil War, like the Pacific Railway Act that was introduced in 1856 leading up to the Civil War, very controversial, and then finally passed during the Civil War by Lincoln in 1862. But going back to this rail banking, that started in 1983, and that was around the time when a lot of people say railroads were deregulated, and we started to see, I think that's when we started to see, especially here in Oregon, industry really disintegrate out of this country. So a lot of people will blame it on environmentalists or deregulation of railroads and such. But anyhow, rail banking, since 1983, 14,184 miles of railroad have been abandoned, and 5,079 miles of that have been put into rail banking. And when this deregulation happened was 1976, the Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act, and the Staggers Rail Act of 1980. And a lot of people want to blame that for abandoned railroads like this and all that, which I don't know. I look at what a major problem is right now is monopolies in the railroad industry, which is something common throughout history of railroads too. We're talking, for instance, in 1983, Southern Pacific and Santa Fe wanted to merge, but at that time, is the Interstate Commerce Commission actually said no because it would be a monopoly. And then what happened in 1995, the Interstate Commerce Commission was abolished, and then 1996, Southern Pacific and Union Pacific wanted to merge, and Surface Transportation Board said no problem. And at the same time, we had railroads all over the country merge. We had Burlington Northern, Santa Fe merge. And so today what we're left with is only 5 Class 1 railroads. And for instance, in 1975, we had 56 Class 1 railroads. And Class 1 railroads, these are to be a Class 1 railroad, operating revenue has to be above $346.8 million. And Class 1 railroads, I say they run monopolies because these small short lines have to rely on a Class 1 railroad. And so, I mean, there's no free market in the railroad industry, is what's going on. And in 2007, we had there's 320,000 weekly carloads. Now in 2010, it's down to 270,000 weekly carloads. We have seen a jump in rail traffic, but it's nowhere near recovered like it was in 2007. But what I'm afraid of is, with now only having 5 Class 1 railroads, that we're going to have the railroad industry nationalized, similar to what happened in World War I with Woodrow Wilson. Had the railroads completely nationalized, and I see that's the path we're on. So I like the way it was before the Civil War, before there was any government involvement at all, and there wasn't even a standard rail gauge.